Welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast. My name is Ian Ray, your host. Today I have Michael Flack, owner and founder of Soletic Mobility, based out of Austin, Texas. He's a yoga instructor. Michael, welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast.
Ian, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So let's get into it. You got into yoga. You're a yoga instructor, and somewhere down the line, you came across wearing toe spacers, and now you created this brand or the product, the brand of these things. So like, what's the story, man? How did you get into that?
Yeah. It's one of those things, Ian. I think if you told me 3 years ago that I'd be starting or have started a toe spacer company, I would have told you to, get out of town or, use whatever language you might think I'd use. But I just wouldn't have believed you. Look, the reality is I found yoga because I played two sports in college, played football and baseball, and I actually ended up fracturing my spine playing football. I fractured my L4 and my L5 vertebra, and that sort of led me down a path that totally changed my fitness journey. I found yoga really as a way to self-treat some pain that I was feeling. And as I was continuing to practice yoga, I found myself in the studio about 4, 5, 6 days a week, just became addicted to it, and eventually went through my 200-hour certification. I now teach on the side as just a passion of mine. And I was doing a continued education course with one of my favorite yoga teachers in Austin. This was a couple of years ago. And she looked at my feet, Ian. She said, "Oh my God, Michael, you need to wear toe spacers." And I had never heard of toe spacers at that time. I looked at her and I was like, huh? And sure enough, that night I went onto Amazon and I bought these toe spacers for $9.99, these blue silicone toe spacers. And the next day they arrived and I wore them around my apartment for, let's call it like 4 hours. I was cooking dinner, watching TV, what have you. And the day after I woke up, and I don't know if you ever had this feeling, but it was like, you squat for the first time in like 6 months and you have that pain that you really like can't walk. But I had that sensation, but it was in my calves, both calves. And it was so severe that I really was limping because of it. And it was obviously because of the toe spacers. That was the only thing that had changed in my regimen. And clearly my toes had never been spread like that. And so despite having some of that pain, I'll call it, I went to the yoga studio that day. My hips felt more open. My lower back felt better. My balance was better. And it was undoubtedly because of the toe spacers. And the way that my mind works is I said, oh, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could bring those toe spacers into the studio? That way I'm not just recovering, but I'm actually strengthening and activating these muscles that I now know I have that I've never accessed before. So that next day, I wore those blue silicone toe spacers into the yoga studio. But no surprise, they came out like 5 minutes into the practice, right? They weren't made for movement. My toes flexed out. So that got my brain moving. I said, oh, wow, I need to find a product, really, because it was something I knew that felt good and something I wanted. And I kid you not, Ian, I must have bought 15 toe spacers, every design, every contraption on the market. Nothing could sustain a true dynamic yoga practice. And so that's how Soletic was born. I then went forth and I created some designs. I started the whole process and we launched on September 1st. And it's been a really exciting handful of months. The reception's been great within the market, and we're starting to just double down on our direct to consumer, and we've got some other exciting things in the hopper. But yeah, that's really how the idea was born.
Yeah, it is true though. I would have to agree with you about the whole wearing any type of toe spacers, because they're silicone, they're soft, and so you would think doing any type of movements or lifts, I mean, it does slip off, and it's not so secure and snug, right? So yeah. That's definitely, I think, I wasn't in your shoe, but when I'm doing, any type of toe spacers and workouts, that's the first thing I notice is it's moving around. It comes off, especially at the pinky toe probably, I don't know. But these definitely has that snug fit, which is so great because it secures and I don't have to worry about it. And it's like you said, you can go through these range of motions just with your foot, what you need, right? So that's been a fun part for me, is just incorporating this into just my own personal life and just wearing it around even. I mean, it's definitely I feel that foot needs to spread after warranties because it's secure and it's snug. Other unlike a regular toe spacers, I think maybe my foot right now at this time and 2 years into it is like it's gone to the point where it needs more stretch. But maybe for beginners, I would say, yeah, start off with your, cheap entry level toe spacers. But this is maybe like advanced or maybe intermediate for me right now.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, you want what was it? It's interesting. So I had this
Uh huh.
idea, right? And you set out to go create a toe spacer, which you don't think of as maybe that complex. But then I all of a sudden I found myself trying to have to solve the problem of how do you put something in between your toes that can remain secure, but that you don't wanna instantly take off, right? And that's kind of a hard problem to solve because, you know how sensitive that I mean, anything jammed between your toes is really more or less not a comfortable sensation, and so that was really what we were trying to solve, and that's why we've got some of the teardrop hole that you see the negative space in the
Hmm.
spacer to give it some cushion. So, yeah, we went through multiple different iterations, and yeah, I think that's right because you want to be able to have the stability of the increased foundation because of the spacer, but you don't want to have to sacrifice freedom of movement,
Hmm.
right? It's incredibly important that when you have these on, you want to still feel like, oh, I can reach for that long lunge, or I can pivot my heel down and rise and not feel like insecure in the spacer in your toes. And so, look, we're really happy with the product and it's not perfect. We love the feedback that comes through, but I think on the whole, we're excited that we took something to market that we really couldn't find
Yeah.
elsewhere.
That's what great entrepreneurs do, right? They find the need and they fill it to solve problems. So good job, man. Let's get into like what your philosophy is with barefoot. Because in the podcast we talk about barefoot a lot, foot health. Why do you think most people should at least look into the foot itself as a whole? I mean, if you look at the head to toe, the foot has been neglected because of the shoes or because we walk on it, we stand on it all day. So that's the last thing you think about until you get injured, until something happens, then you start looking. But that's a foundation, man. It's like like a house. Like you need a good solid foundation.
Yeah, I think I mean, you're touching on a few things. One is sort of this out of sight, out of mind, I think, which is human philosophy, just to take it at its highest level. And not many people deal directly with a foot injury. Now, of course, some people do, but what does happen more often than not is you get an injury that emanates from an issue that starts in the
Hmm.
foot, right? And so that's really what we're trying to attack and solve with, I think, the barefoot movement in general is a more holistic approach towards training health, right? And so by training the foot, by wearing toe spacers, you are more aligned, which reverberates all the way up your body, right? Your ankle gets healthier, your knees, your hips, your back. And so when you are putting massive amounts of load onto your body day after day, that little imbalance that occurs because maybe your pinky toes are compressed and your right foot's off a little bit, and now all of a sudden you got a small degree of difference between your right side and your left side, and that's what creates a stress fracture in your lower back 20 years down the line. That's what we're trying to solve. But again, it's I think human nature to push off the things that aren't problems immediately, or the things you can't always necessarily see. um, and unfortunately, I think it takes, I don't think that I would be as passionate about holistic training if I didn't suffer a back injury in my back. And I am now as sensitive to what feels good in my body as I am because of that experience. So I'm no
Hmm.
exception. I'm just, have already experienced that. But I think that's really, to me, what brings me to it is that it is a holistic approach towards training and care. And for those people who really find solace in exercise and fitness, you want to be doing it as long as you can. And these little hacks, these little tools will help you do that.
If anything, people can incorporate this into your daily routine, whether if it's a holistic, a healthier routine. I think it's just one of those, like you're saying, out of sight, out of mind. Just pop it on and continue on your day, continue living that life that you're trying to improve. So definitely,
Yeah, I've even had
no, no, you're good.
sorry about that, but I've even had people. you put them on through a dynamic warm up, a stretch. You start to build up with the toe
Hmm.
spacers. You don't necessarily start all the time with wearing these for your entire workout, but it's just like anything, right? Crawl, walk, run. Get used to how it feels. Use it for a subset of your workouts. Begin to notice how it feels. And then from there, you sort of take it at your own.
All right. So as far as like creating these toe spacers, I know how long did it take, man? How many prototypes? How many like I mean, I'm sure you've had to go through
Yeah.
back and forth and like fitting it on, going through, several different tests and runs or whatever it is that you had to go through to finally come up with this. But like, give me the process.
Yeah. It's a good question. I love talking about it because, so as I mentioned, I had my apartment had every toe spacer design you could find from Alibaba to Amazon to direct to consumer brands. I had them all really. And I landed on a design that was really influenced by the Pilates sock. If you're familiar with that, just like the standard Pilates sock. Because I knew you wanted what was exciting about that was a lot of them you kept that sole of foot to ground connection, which I thought was important. You don't want to be encumbered and you want that ground action, but you need to also have the security which that Pilates sock has with that strap, which I've incorporated in the Soletic
Hmm.
design. So that was sort of the direction, the onset that I thought was worth exploring. What I did then was I worked with a CAD designer to get initial CAD images created, and then my first prototyping was 3D printed. It was not made to scale. I really just wanted to like see if I could get this thing on. Turns out I couldn't. It was totally not the right material, but that was the first Soletic space. It was 3D printed. And then I went on the hunt to try and find a manufacturing partner. And that took a lot of time navigating the world of manufacturing as a individual
Hmm.
with sort of no sources just took some time. I eventually found a partner and they helped me really refine the design from something that was pretty obtuse to something that we have today, which you can fit on your foot and is comfortable. You also see we've got little nuances in the design. The bottom strap is thicker than the
Hmm.
top. Obviously, we've got the uh, raindrop, excuse me, negative space that I've already highlighted. We've got some thicker padding on the sides of the spacer. And so, look, there's a lot of trial and error. It took 6 months or more of just development of the design before we went to market. We wanted to make sure that we were in a really good spot.
So as far as like the type of people that you've seen that you've introduced to Soletic Mobility, where do you think this fits the best? Like as far as like performance, like yoga. I mean, where do you find most people would benefit wearing the Soletic Mobility?
It's interesting. I created this product first because I wanted to be really
Hmm.
niche, right? You hear about business, you got to market and you got to attack that market. And if you try to market to everyone, then you're marketing to no one. All these sort of like rules and things that you hear. So I set out and I said, okay, so Letic is a toe spacer for the yogi. And then I started marketing, and I've had athletes, I'll just call blanket athletes from every corner of the fitness world reach out to me and say that they've enjoyed Soletic, whether that's yogis, whether that's your high rocks, your CrossFit athlete, to ballet dancers, to mountain climbers. Really, and it makes sense, right? If you think about ballet dancers, they're on their toes a lot. They got to spread their feet. They really care probably most about feet than anyone. Gymnasts. So all that is to say, look, I think there's a lot of application because everyone relies on their feet. Again, back to our point around why is bare feet important. You really can't have a prolonged athletic or fitness career without healthy
Yeah.
feet.
And I think that the more people are into, I would say, just the overall or overarching thing of, I would say, like more self care. The more hopefully people are looking into foot more, as far as just the everyday, just taking care of it. Because we know that bunions and plantar fasciitis, those are such common things that people always constantly talk about. And so like we have to always, address it as like, or where is it? It's your foot, but what about the foot? And I think that's where you and I can probably, continue to push the talks about like, mobility, strengthening, and of course wearing toe spacers just to help with the process of it. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to learn more about you and your thoughts of where, because I talk about barefoot shoes a lot, talk about foot, but like, where do you think people who are into barefoot shoes, why should they wear toe spacers? Or why should they wear toe socks? I mean, that's another thing. The toe socks, toe spacers. Some people do that too. But why do you think people should do that?
Yeah, specifically people who are already wearing barefoot shoes,
Yeah,
why should they
the people
wear
people who
toe
are, or
spacers?
maybe people who are looking into barefoot shoes or whatnot. Because like I'm trying to merge this world of like the foot health, but people who are into barefoot shoes. But sometimes it's too quick for people to get into barefoot shoes, and so that's where we have to kind of say, hey, let's go to the foundation of let's build your foot up, use the barefoot shoes, wear it when it's appropriate, slow at a time, but let's figure out what's causing you, how to get your foot into a barefoot shoe, or to get your foot stronger. So like for example, like this will be a
Well,
great.
I think you just hit it on I think you just hit it on the head, which was, um, really what is your goal, right? It starts with everyone's individual goal. My hunch is, Ian, if you're wearing you one is wearing barefoot shoes, you care a little bit about how your feet feel. And you've probably, I would be guess, have had a hip injury or a knee injury or some sort of ailment that has shined a light on the fact that you need a little bit more care on your feet. And so, if this is you, if you fit this profile, give toe spacers a shot because it's only going to accelerate what I think you're already doing, which is looking after your feet and taking a more holistic approach towards your physical health.
And as far as like your goals, what are you looking forward to for Soletic Mobility? In the future, what's some of the things that you're working in the pipelines?
Yeah, we just brought on our first partner, which I'm super excited about. He's the head of sports performance at the University of Kansas men's basketball. He's a doctor of physical science, and just really excited to have him on board. He brings a lot to how we're going to think about content, how we're going to think about product development, and really trying to get Soletic in a number of different places where we're not today. And we're making a big push into retail in 2026. That will be really the big focus of the first half of this year, which will be how can you get Soletic into Dick's Sporting Goods? How can you get Soletic into Sports Authority? Those big box really. And so we've got some exciting things in the pipeline as it pertains to that. And that'll just allow us to get more customers, or reach more customers, I should say, and get more eyeballs and more toes in the spaces, if you
Yeah,
will.
cool. Yeah, that's a daunting task for sure, but that's exciting at the same time since it'll be a big game changer for most people. So let's see. Another question I have for you is, so if you were, let's say, someone who's thought about more or less getting into toe spacers, what are some simple tips, tricks, or ways that people can ease into toe spacers or wearing toe spacers? Like, what do you do to like share and educate customers about how to use the toe spacers along with, just your daily tasks?
Yeah. So one is don't be a hero, right? You can wear toe like in my story, I was wearing toe spacers around my apartment on my couch cooking dinner to start. And so I think just like with anything, don't look to the output, the end state, focus on the input, right? Let's wear toe spacers 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Build your way up to a point where you feel comfortable and you know how your body reacts to wearing this new device. Because if it is new for you, then yeah, you should take your time with it. And then from there, I think figuring out a way to incorporate it or integrate it into your workout regimen is what is most important. So if you're a yogi, right? How do you take it into class, or maybe you wear them for a more relaxed or comfortable sequence before you take it to something more challenging. If you are someone who likes to lift weights and do resistance training, maybe you just do your dynamic warm up with the toe spacers, or you do something like back squatting where you're pretty static. If you're doing some other modality, again, how do you integrate it so that you can essentially not be overwhelmed,
Mhm.
right? And so understand how your body reacts. We've got a ton of blog posts on our website in terms of, I just posted today actually 5 drills that you can use with your toe spacers to build your feet. So no gym required. I mean, there's resources, whether it's on our website or anywhere else, that you can find to really build up your tolerance and your strength with the toe spacers on.
And then as far as like, let's say we're talking about, the role of how, I guess, you know, foot health, and the barefoot. Where do you see that evolving in the future? Do you think there's going to be a more of an awareness of people getting into this, especially that now that we see the rise of professional athletes who are posting or sharing their content of wearing, you know, taking care of the foot? Where do you see that evolving for just the general public?
Yeah, looking into my crystal ball, right, I think what we're gonna see is, I mean, we've seen it with Vivo Barefoot, which obviously is not mainstream, but they're probably the champion, taking us forward into onto more phones, into more households than ever before. I think what we'll see is a reversion of a lot of shoes to the wider toe box, quote unquote, barefoot shoes. And we might see that across more and more mainstream brands. I think that's coming soon. I still think we've got some time before we see toe spacers and some of these other more niche toe products enter the mainstream. Although last year we saw Wall Street Journal publish an article on toe spacers. We saw the Washington Post do the same. And we've seen athletes like LeBron James, George Kittle, Patrick Mahomes highlight the importance of these types of devices. So I don't think we're too far. I do think the revolution, if you will, has begun. But if I were to guess, I think a wide toe box Nike shoe is probably going to happen before you see some of these other products.
That'll be the day. We shall see.
The narrow toe box lobbyists might not like it.
Oh man. And then what are some of your ways that you're, I guess, more aware, I guess, creating awareness, creating exposure? I know you said you bringing a partner in, trying to get into big box retailer, but like there has to be other ways that you're probably working alongside or just kind of helping people know that you're out there, that, that people can actually go and use these with their various modalities. Like, what are you doing to try to create exposure, a community for the brand of Soletic Mobility?
Yeah, we've done things locally here in Austin. We've sponsored run clubs. We've shown up at gyms and handed out product. We showed up at yoga studios. We are, yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. There's a lot of education that's required, not just for a toe
Uh,
spacer, but now you're saying a toe spacer to wear while you're working out. So there's a lot of education required with our product, and we're excited about being able to showcase, to highlight the importance that this product can have. But we're also trying to reach out to creators across the world and the country, across a number of different channels, Instagram, TikTok, Substack, folks that really take an interest in fitness and have a captive audience and have an audience that trusts them. And we're trying to get our product out to them and telling the story of Soletic and really my story of how I created this product. And we're excited about the momentum, but 2026 will be a big year.
cool. And then in the closing, love for you to share your ways that people can reach out to you, learn more about what Select Mobility is about, the blog, the resources. How can they reach out to you? So if you want to share email, social, website, and then any ways that they can interact, and of course grab those resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is www.soleticmobility.com. You can find our blog posts there. You can obviously purchase the spacers there. You can get information on how the product works, as well as the benefits of wearing toe spacers. That's all on our website. That's soleticmobility.com. We've got an Instagram and a TikTok, which is Soletic Mobility. You can see our content. Obviously, on Instagram, you can also purchase Soletics on our TikTok shop. And then you can email me personally. Any feedback you have, my email is m as in Michael Flack at gmail.com. That's mflack94 at gmail.com. And yeah, we'd love to hear your feedback.
Perfect. One more question. I forgot to ask you this at the beginning. What's the name of the Soletic Mobility? How did you come up with that? I forgot to ask you that.
Yeah, no, Ian, that's a good one. Gosh, it's hard to come up with a business that hasn't been taken
Yeah.
already. But I blended the word sole, the sole of your foot, and athletic because I wanted something to encapsulate this athletic foot focused product. And so, because this is the first toe spacer designed specifically for movement, these are athletes we're going after. How do we do that? And so Soletic was the baby of that, and we've got a little tagline for the athletic soul, SOUL, because we are again going after the people that have athletic spirits by creating this product.
Cool, man. Thank you. I've always loved sharing about brands and names, so that's a deep meaning, man. That's cool. Love it. Yeah,
Appreciate it,
man.
Ian. Thank you for having me
Yes,
on.
sir. No problem. And then I know for sure I'll put everything on the details on the podcast. So appreciate it, man.
Thanks so
See ya.
much, Ian.
Bye.
See ya.